The wind howled through the open hangar, carrying with it the scent of rain and rust. The man who stepped through the threshold didn't belong there, or at least that's what everyone thought. His coat was torn, his boots cracked, and his beard wild with age and wind. But his eyes were sharp, almost frighteningly so, and when he spoke, the laughter that filled the air moments earlier turned into something they would all regret. 5, he said calmly, as if ordering a cup of tea. I'll take 5 Mercedes trucks. The men in pressed uniforms and polished boots erupted into cruel, echoing laughter. One of them even slapped his knee. Another wiped tears from his eyes. They thought he was a joke, a ragged man from nowhere. But by the end of the week, their laughter would be nothing but a memory buried under the rubble of their arrogance. His name was Thomas Varick. To the world, he was a ghost, a man who had disappeared 15 years earlier during the border wars. Once he had been a logistics mastermind, moving entire battalions without anyone realizing they had shifted. He was the kind of man generals trusted with entire fronts, and enemies feared though they'd never seen his face. Then one night, a convoy exploded under his watch. 40 men died. Thomas vanished. People said he lost his mind, went wandering, broken by guilt. Now he stood in front of the Zarnik Trading Company, a front for a powerful smuggling network that had grown fat on greed and blood. The trucks he asked for were no ordinary machines. These were armored Mercedes military transports, newly imported from overseas. Only select people had access to them, and even fewer could move them without triggering alarms. The idea that this ragged wanderer wanted 5 of them sounded ridiculous. Listen, old man, the leader, Rurik Zarnik, said with a grin that showed too many gold teeth. Even the army can't get 5 trucks out of this yard without paperwork. You think you can just walk in here and take them? Tomas's lips curled slightly, almost imperceptibly. I don't think, he said. I know. The laughter rose again. Someone threw him a dirty rag as a joke. Another mockingly offered him a rusty bicycle. Thomas didn't respond. He just turned around and walked away as the rain started falling, soaking his coat until it clung to him like a second skin. 3 nights later, the first truck disappeared. At first, they thought it was an inside job. They interrogated the guards, checked the security footage. What they found made no sense. The cameras showed the truck parked at 2:03 a.m., and then nothing, just a faint flicker like the feed had blinked. By 2:07 a.m., the truck was gone. No alarms, no broken gates. It was as if the machine had evaporated. Rurik was furious. He doubled the guards, brought in dogs, installed extra cameras. He told everyone that if another truck vanished, someone would die. The next night, another truck vanished. This time, a guard swore he saw something, a flash of light, and a figure moving silently through the rain. Not running, not stumbling, moving like he'd walked that yard his whole life. The dogs didn't bark. The alarms didn't sound. By the 3rd night, panic was setting in. The men who once laughed now whispered nervously during their shifts. Rurik stayed in his office with a bottle of vodka, slamming his fist against the desk every time someone brought bad news. He couldn't believe it. A single man was humiliating him in front of his network, his clients, his enemies. The 3rd truck disappeared at 3:18 a.m. The footage caught a glimpse of a shadow slipping under the rain-soaked fencing. When they enhanced the frame, they saw it, Tomas's face, calm, focused, almost serene. Rurik issued an order, shoot on sight. By the 4th night, the yard was a war zone. Guards with rifles, floodlights scanning the perimeter, trucks parked nose to nose. No one slept. No one joked anymore. At 1:47 a.m., the power went out. Total darkness. The generators kicked in after 30 seconds, but by then, another truck was gone. Panic turned into rage. Rurik's men started blaming each other. Some said Thomas had help from inside. Others whispered that he was something supernatural, a ghost from the old wars. The more superstitious guards started quitting, leaving their uniforms in heaps by the gate. By the 5th night, Rurik himself took to the yard with a shotgun. Rain poured down in sheets, drenching everything. Floodlights cast harsh, trembling shadows. The air was tense, almost electric. Then they heard it, a soft humming, the sound of an engine starting. Rurik ran toward the noise, heart pounding. In the far corner of the yard, a Mercedes truck rolled forward silently. Behind the wheel sat Thomas, his face lit by the dashboard glow. He didn't look like a thief. He looked like a man fulfilling a promise. "Shoot him!" Rurik roared. The yard exploded into chaos. Gunfire cracked through the night. But Thomas wasn't there anymore. By the time they reached the truck, it was gone, like a ghost swallowed by the rain. 5 trucks. 5 nights. Gone. In the morning, Rurik's empire began to unravel. Those trucks carried more than just goods. They carried leverage, weapons destined for powerful men, money tied to foreign deals. Without them, promises were broken, and when promises broke in Rurik's world, blood followed. Tomas didn't hide. A week later, he walked into a small village square 30 miles north of the yard. The 5 trucks were lined up neatly under the sun, their engines still pristine. Inside each was a cache of weapons and documents, evidence of Rurik's entire smuggling operation. He turned everything over to the military police. A reporter later asked him why he did it. Tomas simply replied, "They laughed," but there was more to it. Each of those trucks carried weapons that would have been used to arm the same factions that had caused the border wars, the war that had shattered his life. The explosion 15 years earlier hadn't been his fault. It had been Rurik's network selling faulty weapons. Tomas had discovered it too late, and when he tried to expose them, they framed him. He disappeared, but he never stopped watching. For 15 years, he wandered waiting. He watched them grow fat and arrogant, and then, when the moment came, he walked into their yard like a ghost and took back what they had stolen from him. Rurik tried to run. He made it 2 miles before a roadblock caught him. When the police opened the back of his car, they found ledgers. Every deal, every dirty contract. The man who once ruled through fear was dragged through the mud in handcuffs, screaming at the rain. The story spread like wildfire. The Ragged Man and the 5 trucks, they called it. It became legend in the border towns. Some said he planned it down to the second. Others claimed he had supernatural help. But those who'd seen his eyes knew the truth. He wasn't a ghost. He was a man who'd been underestimated. The men who laughed that first day never laughed again. Those who survived told their children about the Ragged Man who walked into a fortress and took what no army could. And Thomas, he disappeared once more, walking down an empty road as dawn broke. The rain had stopped. His coat still hung in tatters, his boots still cracked. But for the first time in 15 years, he didn't feel like a ghost. He felt alive. He had kept his promise. And somewhere in the distance, 5 trucks rolled into history, not as weapons of war, but as instruments of justice stolen by the man no one had believed